I am continuing the 4 Horsemen series, and we are on Horseman number 3. If you missed the first 2, we have Famine and we have Violence already out on the channel, and Look Forward to Death. If you want to see it early, it's on the Patreon. And today's video is going to be on Conquest. Now I know what you're thinking. Conquest? Hey, there's a subclass named Conquest. Clearly we're going to do that. No! Curveball. I am not doing that. However, I did take one of their oaths and I built the character from that seed. That oath reads as follows: Douse the flames of hope. It's not enough to merely defeat an enemy in battle. Your victory must be so overwhelming that your enemy's will to fight is shattered forever. A blade can end a life. Fear can end an empire. Fear can end an empire. That is the truest form of conquest, and that's what we're doing this build off of. And truly, at the end of this build, I would say that this would be a nightmare to face. It would be super frustrating to go up against this character, and it would break your will to fight. So let's do this thing. Starting off, we're going to be a Fallen Aasimar. They have that necrotic shroud ability, which can fear people within 10 feet of them, but also just gives us bonus damage if we're doing attacks at range. So it's going to help us in many different ways, and it's perfectly in theme. It also is going to come with the light cantrip and dark vision, which are 2 awesome things to have. And this character kind of accidentally ends up with just a ton of utility cantrips, and that really begins here. As for our stats, charisma needs to be maxed as soon as possible. Constitution is going to be our secondary, and dexterity is going to be our tertiary. Past that, wisdom would be the 4th one we want to take a look at, just to cover some of our save weaknesses. Now, as for the levels in this build, we're going to be going 20 levels into the Undead Warlock. The Undead Warlock lets us attempt to fear someone every single turn when we have Form of Dread activated. So this means in those early levels, we're going to be a standard Warlock. We're going to have that Hex set up. We're going to be doing Eldritch Blast. We're going to get Agonizing Blast, Invocation, and be taking advantage of all the normal Warlock things. Now, interestingly, once we hit 2nd level, our primary spell is actually a 1st level spell, but upcast. Cause Fear. Cause Fear isn't that good at the 1st level because we have our Form of Dread, and that's going to be basically doing Cause Fear with every Eldritch Blast on top of damage. But as we get into 2nd level, we can only do that to 1 target. So if we want to fear 2 people, Cause Fear can come into play. Now, things get really interesting once we get our 3rd level spells. Now, note, we went Pact of the Tome and we took Book of Ancient Secrets. This allows us to be a ritual caster. By being an Undead Warlock, once we hit level 5, we get Phantom Steed, which is a ritual that we can now cast. So there's our mount. We have a Phantom Steed mount. Excellent movement speed, can just be ritually summoned every 11 minutes. Sure, it's gonna die if it gets hit, but that's a big if though, when our range is out to 120 feet and we have anywhere from 100 to 200 feet of movement speed. So any amount of open space, this build is broken. The movement speed combined with the range is disgusting. Of course, this is Dungeons and Dragons. There's going to be times we're in close range, but that is the essence of this build, is the more open it is, the more absolutely nightmarish it becomes. But in those close ranges, we still have some options. So at 5th level, we have 3rd level spells. We're going to have a couple. One I'll mention is Fear for just great AoE control, but I think the more important one for us is Summon Shadow Spawn, and specifically the Fury version of it. Not only does the Shadow Spawn have an AoE fear effect similar to the Fear spell, but it has advantage on all attacks against a feared enemy. If we blast someone with our Eldritch Blast, they get afraid. The Shadow Spawn can follow up and tear into them with advantage. That is going to be our primary spell, 3rd, 4th, and 5th level. Now, going into our invocations, we have 2 that are required. Agonizing Blast, I'd say, is basically essential for this build, and we have the Book of Ancient Secrets to be a ritual caster. Now, we have a bunch of different options for what we could do with our 3rd one, but I am personally going Eldritch Spear. I think that 300-foot range just takes what we were already doing and makes it bonkers. So now we have 200 feet of movement speed and a 300-foot range. Not only are you getting blasted, you're being feared, and there's just nothing you can do. What are you gonna do at that range? Honestly, you don't even have to do the hit and run tactic anymore, because who has 300-foot range attacks? Not very many people, I'll tell you that. But the harrying can actually be boosted by doing something like the Shadow Spawn Despair, where you're reducing their movement speed, so you're making them afraid of you, and you're making it so they can't really run away. That's a catch-22. That would be a nightmare for anyone trying to escape you. You don't have to go Eldritch Spear. I think there's probably better choices, but I just like the theme of it. Warlocks only get 1 level 6, 7, 8, and 9 spell. For me, I think Create Undead at level 6 is really interesting because every day we can have 3 ghouls along with our Shadow Spawn with our horse keeping us at range, so we can have 4 frontliners for us while we maintain range. The paralysis effect is going to give us advantage on our ranged attacks and is going to make our Shadow Spawn crit with every attack and the other ghouls as well. So there's some cool synergies there. At level 7, we get Finger of Death, which we can use to kill just basic humanoids to essentially get a zombie army. Same thing as before, just creating this meat wall between us and our enemies. Level 8, I thought Maddening Darkness was really cool. It's an army killer, massive range of darkness that does damage. So you just blast it out there, and now they have to escape that darkness into our armies. And at level 9, I thought Psychic Scream was pretty cool, just because we can explode people's heads from just being terrifying. Mostly just flavor stuff that I wanted to quickly mention, not essential to the build. This is the main core of what we do, but there's other stuff we can do. We are a ritual caster that can cast any ritual spell, so we actually get a lot more utility than you'd think, and we just kind of get it on the side. You know, it's not what we were here for, but it just happened. On top of that, by taking Pact of the Tome and being an Aasimar and being a Warlock, we end up with a ton of cantrips, and we don't really need more damaging cantrips than Eldritch Blast. It's just such a consistent damaging cantrip. But other than that, I would be straight utility. You know, I would make sure we have things like Message and Mending and Thaumaturgy and all the cool spells that are fun to use and have out of combat application. So at the end of the day, what are we? Well, we are a nightmare of a kiter. We have a specialty in causing the fear condition throughout our enemies and capitalizing on it. We truly break our enemies' will to fight because we just outrange them. There's nothing they can do, and we're putting the fear effect on top of them at the same time as being a mile away. So there's just nothing they can do, and we can just harry them from afar. It is truly using fear and patience to just break the spirit of our enemies. On top of that, we have excellent utility. Like I said before, in between our rituals and our cantrips, our utility goes for days. Our primary weakness is going to be our wisdom save. So we're definitely going to want to pick up Resilient Wisdom, probably right after we get 20 in Charisma, maybe even at 18 Charisma, we're going to want to pick that up. But our main defense is our range. And so the close quarters is definitely going to be our weakest space to be in which case we're going to be relying on our Shadow Spawn's AoE fear and our own fear and just positioning. Now that has been my take on the Conquest Horseman. What would you guys have done with your Conquest Horseman? Let me know in the comments down below. If you were a patron, you would have seen this video way back when it was early release. And as a patron, you would end up seeing exclusive content as well as other benefits. So if you want to support the channel and see these benefits, consider checking it out. We'd really appreciate it. But other than that, my friends, I hope you have yourselves a fantastic freaking day. I'll catch you on the next one. See you later. Bye.